I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring the evocative poetry collection called Footprints. It's written by an amazing poet. His name is James TenEyck. This anthology captures moments of love, loss, and reflection, featuring memories of his beloved Veronica and poignant commentaries on America's current state and history as well. Join us as we dive into these beautifully crafted verses that resonate with both personal and collective experiences. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his beautiful book. The links are below the interview. James, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Well, thank you, Logan. I'm really happy to be here to talk with you.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on the show. I love the title, Footprints. Why did you decide to call your collection of poems Footprints?
Oh, good question. It just seemed appropriate. No special reason. It turned out when I originally chose that title, it was a problem because there's a lot of books that start with footprints that are a lot higher up on the
Amazon
popularity
lists or
list, let's
whatever.
say.
Yep.
So finding footprints on Amazon proved to be a little bit of a difficulty at
Right,
first.
but we put in your name and then we can find it, no problem. And
Yeah,
we'll have a
yeah,
link below
it's
this
easy.
interview,
Yeah,
of course. Now, these are poems that you crafted pretty much over the course of your life, right?
more or less, yes. I was writing poems, particularly during a couple of periods during my time. Well, after graduating from my undergraduate college, Lafayette, I worked for about 5 years at IBM in Endicott. So some of these poems go back to that period and my time in graduate school in Syracuse. And then there's a bit of a lull until basically my retirement period.
Wonderful. Now, out of all the poems you've written, how did you choose these poems that would be in the collection?
Well, yeah, there are some poems that I've written, obviously, that I've left out. There's some that I continue to write that may or may not find their way into another collection. But it's an eclectic collection, so there's no particular set that this is a poem strictly about love stories, or this is a poem strictly about what's happening, in the times that I was writing. It's an eclectic collection where all of these different topics appear. So,
Exactly. And some of the poems were written for your beautiful wife, Veronica, right?
right.
Yeah. Tell us about some of those. Is there a favorite you have amongst the poems you wrote for her?
A couple. There's a couple of poems. Well, there's a collection of 3 sonnets that I call Dublin Bay. And for people that are familiar with Dublin Bay, if you look at the outline of the shoreline of the bay itself, it's like a semicolon that's rotated 180 degrees about the vertical axis. So it has the point out here, and then it comes to an area where it juts out a bit, and another one that juts out further down, and it does that all along the line, all along the coastline of Ireland, of Eastern Ireland. But in particular, it looks like a rotated semicolon. So the first poem would be, that little dot at the beginning is Howth, Howth Harbor, Howth Head. And then I go around the bay. She grew up in Dublin. She grew up in South Dublin. So we go around the bay to places that were particularly favorites of her and particular fond spots of her youth. And then the last poem is just taking the DART, the Dublin area rapid transit commuter train from Howth to its last stop. It's Greystones. Some of them don't go as far as Greystones, but some of them only go as far as the stop before Greystones, which I'm I'm blocking on right now.
Where is the stop before Greystone is close enough?
Greystone's worked poetically more, than
Yeah.
the earlier stop. So I can give you the last poem in that collection.
Would love to hear it. Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So the dart from Hoth to Greystone stops at Pierce, Dunlera, Dalkey on the way. It tunnels under Queen V's crown and pops out for a view above Killiney Bay. The arm of Bray that stretches out to sea. The Sugarloaf, a conny keep of ash and stone that grants its purple majesty to early morning sun-soaked waves that splash upon the shore. Away from Stephen's Green, the Kells and Grafton Street, where tourists flock to Bewley's and to mingle in the Dublin scene. Beyond the pubs that fiddle, dance, and rock, the magic face of Ireland is found. Along the bay, the Vico Road winds round.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. I love that. You really have captured the essence of Dublin there, I think, for sure. It is such a charming city. A big part of its charm, of course, is its people, no
It
doubt,
is.
right? Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Wonderful. And some of the poems you have crafted are commentaries on the United States and the state of democracy. Tell us about some of those poems as well.
Well, I guess some of them are more political. Well, one of them might be more political, but one of them is Vietnam. Basically, the poem has nothing to do with the war, the actual war. I don't know. I can quickly recite it. Maybe it's another.
Love to hear it. Sure.
So we've grown old, some 50 years removed from when the universe we knew was rolled into a white-hot ball. With time, it's cooled. The background din, a remnant of our old Big Bang, fades into echoes of the long-spent years. The broken symmetry back then has frozen into forces that assert a strong effect upon. The broken symmetry back then has frozen into forces that assert a strong effect upon the forces within their ken. The dark exerts its force to push our space, but well, maybe I'm not doing so well on reciting.
You're doing pretty well.
That was one I could, but basically it takes into my background in physics. Maybe it's more than that. But the dark exerts a strong effect upon. It's strong. That assert a strong effect upon the forces within its ken. The world around continues to expand. The dark exerts a strong effect to push our space apart. But shaky dominoes still stand, and common threads once shared in youth still lace the fortunes of the aging hawk and dove into a legacy bequeathed with love. So it's just a reflection on.
That's great. That captures a lot of the Vietnam War era.
Yeah, I guess it captured a little bit more if I could not screw up the
no worries
lines in the middle, but
no worries.
There you go.
And yeah, that was a defining era in your life in many ways. I mean,
it was, yeah.
Yeah, growing up in the 60s and 70s, it's all anyone ever talked about or were focused on was the Vietnam War, which was both a bad thing and a good thing in some ways because all of America's attention was there at least. Today we have wars and it doesn't seem like America is focused on them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I have a thing, my last poem, I put it in the addendum because I don't think very much of it as a poem. It's a very hackneyed kind of a poem. Let Freedom Ring.
I'd love to hear it.
I accompany it with an essay, what I think is the major thing that's happening now is the struggle between democracy and autocracy. And, democracies are somewhat on the back foot, not only in the United States, but in Europe as well. And I think the outcome of that war is going to have a significant effect, let's say, on which of the sides is going to gain from this experience, and and each side has a lot to lose. And so, I'm trying to say that we need to support Ukraine. That the winner or the loser of this particular struggle is going to be either enhanced or diminished, let's say, in the overall struggle. So that's one of the themes in the book. And I put it to the side because I don't think a lot of the poem and even the idea itself of ringing bells at a common hour in unison across the Western world is sort of a crazy idea for somebody that never had any idea what's involved in ringing a bell. And or if you do this every day at let's say 8:30 in the morning in the West Coast and 11:30 in the East Coast, and it would be what, 5:30 or whatever, 4:30, 5:30 in England and France, and further on as it goes into other parts of Eastern Europe. That's going to drive people crazy, and so it's not going to do anything to really boost support for the war. Maybe if it happens once or twice a year, then it could have an effect. But it's a stupid idea, and it's not a great poem. But I think the message is that one side or the other is going to be significantly diminished in this particular struggle, and it's a good idea that it wouldn't be our side.
Absolutely, absolutely. Today is a day in history that you marked with your poem about the Newtown School massacre. Those kids are actually graduating today, the kids that
The
survived,
kids that
right?
survived, yeah.
Yeah. It was such a dark day in the world that day. I had never heard of a crime so horrible as a group of little school children. I think they were kindergartners, right? First
Yeah, I think
graders. Yeah,
kindergarten, first grade. Most of them
yeah.
were 6. So they would be
Unbelievable.
18 right now, I guess, 17, 18. And the survivors are graduating today, roughly,
Amazing.
from Newtown.
Amazing. So you've crafted a poem about Newtown and that slaughter. Could you read it to us or recite it for us? That would be
Well, yeah, I have
wonderful.
to recite it because with my macular degeneration, I have trouble
Mm,
reading
I
anything.
gotcha.
But yeah, I think it's appropriate today because the survivors of that massacre are the ones that are graduating, and it's a good time to remember the kids that didn't survive. So here it goes. They'd be 11 now, attending middle school, and blooming in the springtime of their youth. They'd be alive to currents coursing through their veins and hatching dreams of what one day might bring. We grieve for them that dreadful day when terror came and stole away the precious years ahead. We bowed our heads, shed a tear, and offered up our prayers. It happened just 2 weeks before the visit from St. Nick. Some presents were already wrapped and hidden in a closet, safe from prying eyes that couldn't wait for what the future was to bring. Some kids were hiding in the closets in the school that dreadful day when terror came and stole away the lives their teachers tried to shield, but lost instead the precious years ahead. With only thoughts and prayers to turn, the dreidel wouldn't spin. The thoughts and prayers beneath the tree were all there were to give, in the place beneath where presents should have been. We felt the shock the parents felt and sensed the loss they had to bear. We think of them these 5 years on as holidays draw near, the candles that would still be lit, the gifts that are not there. Once again, we think of them and offer up a prayer. And what of him who did the deed, to whom no thoughts or prayers were paid? What infection in the air could trigger this disease? What madness puts a soldier's gun into such troubled hands? What thoughts and prayers could salve the wound that led to his despair? It's harder on a cloudy day to see the shadow that we cast than it is to pause and say, our thoughts and prayers go out to them as we continue on our way. They'd be 11 now. They'd be 11 now, the tender age of in-between belief in Santa Claus and those beliefs the church and state instill. They'd be in middle school where they would learn the myths of Greece and Rome and history of the USA. And when another shock occurs, they'd be old enough by now to offer us their thoughts and prayers.
Amazing. That's an amazing poem. You captured so much of the youthful innocence that was stolen from the people who were killed and the people who survived. Christmases that weren't celebrated, presents that were left unwrapped, Hanukkahs that were not marked and celebrated either. Um, and today they would be 18, they'd be going to proms, they'd be graduating high school, they'd be in caps and gowns, they'd be dreaming of college, they'd be making plans for the future and jobs and boyfriends and girlfriends and love. All of those things are missed because of a madman's gun. And you so captured their life at age 11. And now here it is 7 years later. And again, more missing, more sorrow, more moments missed out upon. James, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Logan. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed talking to you as well, my friend. The name of the book is Footprints. It's an anthology that captures moments of love, loss, and reflections. It's a wonderful book. It has poems of love, poems about the state of America, and poems, as you just heard, about critical events in our American history, such as the Newtown School Massacre. I'm Logan Crawford, thanking the folks at home for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.